Hey Largo, great response, thanks. The the first question I asked, the furless one, which you kind of deferred and said, people aren't quite furless. That's true. I find the more white, more Slavic, Russian, Germanic that your ancestry is, the furrier you are. Even though as a species we originated in Africa, African Americans, people of more immediate African descent, are less furry than whitey whites like you and myself. I got some French in me though, so I'm not that furry. Some Mediterranean influence, but also got some Hun. So there's some even way Western European. Way Eastern European, way Western Asia influences in my genome. But anyway, the question was more about what theory do you think explains it as far as evolution goes? Is it more to do with just voluntary selection, probably from males in social groups choosing the more furless females, which is why we see less fur on women than men. They shave more parts, but just generally, men are furrier than women. Is it just sexual selection? Is it just and it didn't interfere with survivability? So if it's not harmful in a population, it will arise as variation, or was it more about environment influence? I was just recently pointed to the fact that we have webs between our fingers. They're not much, just here, 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 but these are significantly more prominent than in other primates like chimps and gorillas. Which points to an aquatic period in our ancestry. Mammals do one of two things if they, take to the water. They either lose their hair, like we see in dolphins, whales, that whole line, or they oil up like otters do, kind of do the duck route. So the fur itself acts as a shield. Sea lions and seals too. They lose the fur when you take their walruses. When you take to the water, you lose the fur, or you use the fur as a shield, like otters do. So, if we're furless because of an aquatic period in our ancestry, or was it just selection based on sexual preference? What else? Oh yes, you said you hadn't played video games since the original Super Mario Brothers on the original Nintendo Entertainment System back in the early 80s. I remember when I got that for a Hanukkah present. 1985, 86, I believe. Anyway, if you're familiar with the original line of video games that came out for the Nintendo Entertainment System, of course, Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt being the first bundle, the next game, the next killer app, as it were, to get was The Legend of Zelda, which showed up, I think, in just the next quarter after Super Mario Brothers debuted, and Link is the hero from The Legend of Zelda. And of course, The Legend of Zelda has had many, many iterations since then. The most recent, which debuted on the Wii, Nintendo's most current system, and at the GameCube at the same time, The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. And of course, Link is still the main character. And Samus Aran debuted in Metroid, again for the original Nintendo Entertainment System, probably a year or two into the Nintendo's run. It didn't come out, right at the beginning like Zelda did. It came out a little later, Metroid. And Samus Aran is the heroine from that, though at the first time you go through the game you don't realize that Samus is actually female. She's wearing a full, like, bounty hunter bodysuit. A little bit more bulky than, but in the same vein as like a Boba Fett style androgynous suit. So after you beat the game for the first time, you get to play through again. Things are a little different, and your character, little 8-bit pixel character, is clearly female the second time through. And not only did she have long hair, but she had long green hair. Very very odd, but it was supposed to be a big surprise after you beat the game the first time that, oh my goodness, Samus Aran, which of course being, from the future, Samus is a name that doesn't, quite exist yet. There's no gender role assigned to the name, so Samus Aran in itself is a androgynous name. So it was a surprise, like, oh my goodness, all this time I've been playing a woman. So she's probably one of the first strong female heroines in video game history. Of course, there's been a long line of them, from games as popular as Tomb Raider to games more obscure like Oni, made by Bungie. Is that it? I think that was all I wanted to bring up. Yep, that was all I wanted. Oh, and would you kill it with, car, plane, or fire? You can blame that entirely. I went and saw Die Hard in the movie theater, and then came home and made that video. So just blame that on Bruce Willis. It's all his fault.